I'll give you a brief overview of the project improvements that are underway, and then I'll turn it over to the contractor who's going to go through the status update and the current and upcoming street closures that are going to be impacting traffic flow in and around the community, and then project look ahead, what's coming in the next few months, and upwards, I guess, through all of 2014, and then we'll take any questions that you may have at the end. This is a picture of the Washington Boulevard Bridge before we began construction. It certainly doesn't look like this today. And this is what we're hoping it will look like when it's completed. This is an artist's rendering of the architectural treatments that are being added to the bridge, the new bridge, most of which you can see if you're traveling westbound on Columbia Pike and going underneath the bridge. Most of the northbound bridge has been completed. The bridge will be named the Freedmen's Village Bridge out of a grassroots effort from the Bridge Working Group, a group of citizens that participated with us in the determination of some of the design features on the bridge. And we had an architect on board who designed and put to paper what we had envisioned as a group. Any questions on this before? I don't want to go too quickly. The final configuration is a similar handout to what you have today in your hands, except that this is in color. Unfortunately, I didn't have access to a color printer to print that out. We're doing a couple things that are somewhat unique. We're realigning ramps and adding traffic signals along Columbia Pike. I'm going to start in the east side and work our way west. We're realigning what we call Ramp D. It's the Washington Boulevard north or west, whichever direction you want to call it. What used to come up and only could make a right-hand turn to go eastbound on Columbia Pike, it has already been relocated and realigned opposite of South Orm Street, and a traffic signal has been installed. So now you can come straight through to the Sheraton Hotel, or take a right or left from that ramp. Now, not all movements may have been open just yet, but they will be ultimately. So you'll be able to take a left or right onto Columbia Pike from that ramp. Ramp C is going to be in a similar configuration. This is the eastbound Columbia Pike to northbound or westbound Washington Boulevard. That loop ramp is about the same size as the old one was. It's currently closed and being reconstructed, and it's having to be reconstructed so that it can elevate in grade to get up over the new bridge. Ramps A and B on the northeast side of the interchange are being widened and brought a little bit closer to the Sheraton Hotel. Ramp B in particular is coming off of Washington Boulevard in a similar fashion as it does today, but it will widen out to 2 lanes and will be assisted by a traffic signal to help dissipate the queues coming from that ramp onto westbound Columbia Pike.
What does that mean, dissipate the queues?
Help traffic get through that traffic signal so that they're not sitting waiting on the ramp. Does that make sense? So it comes off of Washington Boulevard as a single lane. Just as soon as it comes to the curve, it widens out to 2, and then there will be a traffic signal that will turn green and allow both lanes to turn right onto Columbia Pike.
Will that still be a right turn only?
Right turn only, yes, sir.
So 2 lanes will turn right. If you find that it backs up, like the ramp that goes off of, it goes down to Glebe Road where those apartment complexes are, and the traffic backs up into 95, will you change it somehow?
We have analyzed this configuration with future forecast volumes all the way out to 2030. 32, 34. We found that there were no queues that back up beyond the ramp, that it will be handled by the traffic signal. Now the traffic signal at the ramps A and B is only going to be a half signal, so it will only control the ramp B, and the westbound Columbia Pike. So if you're traveling eastbound Columbia Pike, you will never be stopped by a traffic light at that particular location. You will have the traffic signal at South Orm Street to address, but at least those ramps will only control, the signal will only control the ramp B and Columbia Pike westbound. Okay? So that too helps keep traffic moving. We are replacing the single bridge with 2 side-by-side bridges. So what's already been open to traffic to the northbound direction of Washington Boulevard is the new northbound bridge. Eventually, and we'll talk about this in a few, we'll get all of the traffic off of the existing bridge and demolish it and build the other adjacent bridge that will carry all of southbound traffic. And I wish I had a laser pointer, so this bridge on this side, east side, has already been constructed. We're going to be starting this one next year. Yes, sir.
The elevation from the north side of the bridge going towards Fort Mine, ramp B, is that the elevation that is gonna stay at what it is now?
No, it's going to be reconstructed in its permanent configuration also as part of an upcoming stage of construction.
But what I'm saying, will the grade change? Because right now you've got a slope there, a real dangerous slope, especially when it's wet. And a very sharp curve there.
Once we have it in the final configuration, you will have a little bit more of a mild curve. Right now, it is a little bit tighter because we need to put all 4 lanes of 27 on the northbound bridge temporarily while we demolish the existing bridge and build the southbound bridge. But in the final configuration, you'll have more room. You'll have an acceleration, deceleration lane on the bridge for the ramps, so it will be a lot easier to exit there. Right now, there's no deceleration lane, so you do have to exit pretty quick.
Can I make a comment too? When you
Tighter
take that exit to that ramp B, it's really not well marked and it comes up on the road fast.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden, we were gone a week and came back and I was like, wait a second, where's the exit? And then we saw it just before we got to it.
Your sign is just before you turn.
Right.
And you can almost miss it if you're not paying
Yeah.
attention.
Unfortunately, because the bridge is right at the end of the bridge, there's really nowhere else. There's no room to put any signs in the shoulder there, so.
Even in advance saying exit ramp, current ramp or something.
And we can look into that, some advanced signage, but there's limited room, as you well know, and, the traffic coming up there. Eventually, there'll be an overhead sign there, so it'll be a little bit larger, so you'll be able to see it from further away, so that'll help as well.
Yeah, we almost missed it.
Yeah, it does come up on you quick, it is hard to see it.
We have a slide later in the presentation too with some additional colors that will help depict exactly where the ultimate configuration of the ramp will be relative to what it is now. So it'll show just how tight it looks now compared to what it will be when it gets finally constructed. In the northwest quadrant, you'll see a loop. It's called ramp F, I think. I don't know if it's actually labeled on your sheet. But there's a loop ramp in the northwest quadrant that will be eliminated altogether with the new configuration. And the directional ramp, ramp G, which is adjacent to it right now, comes to the traffic signal at South Quinn Street. That's going to get realigned and brought over opposite of South Queen Street, and that intersection will be signalized. So instead of coming straight down Washington Boulevard, getting off at Columbia Pike and going straight across to Quinn, you'll come down Washington Boulevard, get off at the ramp, and go straight across to Queen Street. We did that for a couple of reasons. Operationally, we know that most of the traffic in the mornings are going to ramp E. We know that a lot fewer people are actually using the loop ramp F, and instead making a U-turn to get onto ramp E, which is the directional ramp that'll take you to 395 north and south, and then also Washington Boulevard eastbound or southbound in that particular quadrant. So we felt it would be better if we actually made it a dedicated left turn and signalize it for that purpose, so that it will make it safer for all of the turning maneuvers that occur at the South Queen Street intersection. And believe it or not, with this configuration, we help to keep traffic flowing much better than if we had done nothing at all and left all of the ramps in the original configuration. So the signal at Quinn Street will move to Queen. It will be fully accessible. We managed to keep Queen Street open. That was one of the things that we did not think was possible with our early design, and this design's been underway since 1996. We thought we were going to have to close Queen Street, but we heard from the community, and especially the Bridge Working Group, the representatives from the community, just how critical it is to keep South Queen Street open. We thought also by signalizing it, we're going to be addressing a lot of the safety concerns at that particular intersection.
So when you say keep it open, it's going to be two-way traffic?
Yes, it will be fully accessible, just as it is today, but we'll have a traffic signal. And when it goes green for the Queen Street motorists, they will have their own green, so they're not going to be competing with the ramp traffic. Today, if you're familiar with the intersection at Quinn Street, if you're coming through from the ramp, both directions, Quinn Street and the ramp, are going at the same time. And so if you're turning left, you have to make sure that the person opposite you also has their signal on, indicating that they're turning left so that you don't collide with one another. When we move the traffic signal to South Queen Street will have its own green time, not to compete with any other motorist turning at the same time. At South, yes, sir.
Exiting South Queen Street, can you still make a right left turn on to Columbia Pike?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was also an important element that we heard from the community, is that we had to keep that fully accessible both to the ramp and to Columbia Pike. At South Quinn Street, because of all of our consolidating the traffic over to South Queen Street, we're actually going to be restricting the maneuvers at that intersection, allowing only the eastbound right turn to enter onto Quinn Street. So you will no longer be able to leave the community out of Quinn Street when the project is finished. We'll keep that signal operational until we need to get the new signal in place for Queen Street, and then we will go ahead and restrict the maneuvers at Quinn Street. We believe that will address some of the safety concerns of that intersection as well. We understand even with the traffic signal, there's a lot of red light runners, a lot of angle crashes that occur at that intersection. By restricting the maneuvers, we believe we're going to help eliminate some of the safety concerns there at that intersection as well.
So you're saying that South Quinn?
South Quinn,
That's coming.
Quinn, yes. Quinn Street, right turn entrance only.
Right turn only, you can't go from Quinn north onto
Correct.
to Columbia Pike.
Correct.
Only go south.
Only turn in and go south.
One way south.
Yes, sir.
I see.
We know that the community is concerned about somewhat restricting that maneuver, and the entrances onto Quinn Street, and had asked that we considered also signalizing South Rolfe Street. It is not in the limits of our project. We are not going to be evaluating that as part of our project. The county is fully aware of the concerns, and they have agreed that they will come out next spring and do another signal warrant analysis after they'll start next spring, but they'll continue it every year until we're finished with our project, and they have an opportunity to figure out whether or not indeed that intersection meets the warrants to receive a traffic signal. So it is on our radar. We are aware of it. The county's aware of it. It will continue to be studied in the future.
And how long is that period? You say, when is this anticipated to be finished?
We're going to go into that in just a moment.
Oh.
So we're going to go over the overall schedule, what we're doing, major stages upcoming, and the end of completion. Yes, sir.
One other question, going westbound in Columbia Pike at the light at Queen, is that a dedicated left turn lane there?
Yes, sir. You'll have a dedicated left turn to turn onto Queen Street, or to make the somewhat U-turn to get onto the ramp to go to 395. That will be a legal maneuver. And a dedicated left turn, so you'll have the green light, again, without opposing traffic to contend with.
Where are pedestrians crossing it?
They're not, they may not be shown clearly on here. I don't know if we have pavement markings also highlighted. We don't, but we do have push button signals for pedestrians at all three of the signalized intersections. On Quinn Street, of course, it will be unsignalized, but they'll be able to walk across the single lane, only having to look over their shoulder to see if any cars are turning into Quinn. At the Queen Street intersection, there will be a crosswalk across Queen Street and across Ramp E, and on the east side of the intersection of Columbia, so Columbia Pike, there'll also be a pedestrian crosswalk to the north side of Columbia Pike, and then another crosswalk across the realigned Ramp G. So you'll have access to all corners of that intersection through pedestrian crosswalks with push buttons. Across ramps A and B, there will also be another push button pedestrian signal. And ramp C will have a crosswalk, but it is not signalized. Again, you'll just have to contend with the right turning maneuvers to be able to walk across that ramp. And then South Orm Street, the signal there has crosswalks, again, I believe, across the realigned Ramp D, on the east side of the intersection, and then back across towards the Sheraton.
Is there only no turn on red coming up from Queen Street onto the ramp E?
Yes, sir. There will be no right turn on red permitted onto that ramp, primarily for pedestrian safety, but also because we don't want people trying to contend with the speeding, or potentially speeding traffic that we know a lot of folks come down the hill at a pretty good clip and then go right up to the ramp. So if the light's green there, we want to make sure that we don't add to potential for collisions at that intersection. So no right turn onto either Ramp E or Columbia Pike from the signalized intersection at South Queen. You'll still be able to go right out of Rolfe Street any time of day you want to. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Joe McGuire with Shirley Contracting. He's our construction manager.
My name's Joe McGuire, the construction manager with the team. Going to be going through a few things, where we're at with the job right now, and some of the things that are going to be upcoming in the next few months and year. So status update right now, we have, in the last few months, we have ramp D relined to South Orm Street and a new traffic signal installed. Waterline relocation along Columbia Pike is currently underway and will be continuing in the next year. The sanitary sewer work is also started last month in November, and the work down along the creek next to Carrington Village has been mostly completed along Long Branch and up to South Queen Street. We are currently working in South Queen Street right now with the sewer work. 327 southbound retaining wall is underway. All the concrete's been poured. I'm sure everyone has seen that, and we'll be continuing to do the widening along southbound 27 adjacent to that wall. And the northbound bridge deck has been poured, and the bridge has been open to northbound traffic, so we switched that a couple weeks ago. This is a few photos of some of the work we just went through. This is the signal that was just recently installed at South Orm Street and Ramp D. We're calling Ramp D on your diagram there, adjacent to the Sheridan. This is, again, the same signal, the same intersection, looking at Ramp D. And as Tina went over, you can now make a left-hand turn, go straight across Columbia Pike to South Orm Street to access the Sheridan Hotel, or make a right. So you have the 3 lanes that are open there today. And there's a crosswalk with pedestrian access there. This is the southbound retaining wall that was just recently poured out. And like I said, we'll be in there working to do the roadway widening. The road will be widened up against that wall here shortly.
Question, is that going to be a sound barrier there too?
There will be a sound wall on top of that slope, a little bit closer to the condos.
That's later on.
That is later on. That'll be late 2014.
Oh.
Construction. This is the recently completed northbound bridge. We have just recently switched traffic on that, so we do have traffic there now. Some of the upcoming street closures that I'm sure everyone is curious about, needs to be aware of if you're traveling out from the intersection of some of these streets. Right now, we do have South Queen Street closed for the sanitary sewer work. We do have traffic detoured over on 12th Street if you're trying to come out to Quinn, to come out on Quinn. And obviously, if you're trying to come in on Queen, we are directing people coming eastbound to use Rolfe, and if you're coming westbound to use Quinn. We do have signage up. We've had some concerns on that. We're trying to put some additional signage up just to make sure that everyone is well aware that Queen is closed prior to getting there, to make sure that they know that they need to go down Quinn or Rolfe to access this neighborhood, this area.
The question, what is the need for the sanitary sewer work?
We are replacing the existing sewer. There's 2 8-inch sewers on Columbia Pike and another, I believe it's a 12, that goes down towards the existing sewer along the creek and continues out to the treatment plant. We are putting in a new 24, 20-inch, and 12-inch sewer that's going to be replacing those 2 8-inch sewers on Columbia Pike. So all that work, we'll go into a little more detail. We'll be continuing up Columbia Pike, and we'll be tying into the existing sewers up by Rolfe Street.
Two reasons for that work: age and condition of the sanitary sewer line, and secondarily because the county requested that we move it out of the way of the future streetcar. The future streetcar alignment.
Oh.
As many of you may be aware.
Potential streetcar.
Yeah.
I don't know why the sewers in the way of the streetcar.
The streetcar design would have the tracks set in a concrete bed, and they want all utilities to be out from underneath of that concrete pad so that it could be accessible should there be any problems in the future with any of the utility lines. So they, as I mentioned, we're working with the county as partners on this project, so they had several requests as part of the scope of our project. One was to move all of the utilities out of the way of the future streetcar so that they wouldn't have to pay to move them after we've built our project.
So you had sanitary sewers underneath the road besides?
It was down the right turn, it was down the right lane of Columbia Pike, and that's exactly where the streetcar is gonna go. So they wanted us to move it out of the middle of Columbia Pike and under either the sidewalk or the additional space that we have adjacent. So where you see the hole dug right now for
So
South
is
Main
this
Street.
sewer line below the level of the creek that's going to go through there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it crosses under the creek.
Below the level of the creek?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, all the work adjacent to the creek has been done. We'll have to go back and do a few things along that slope and stuff, just to finish grading and stuff along the manholes, but all the pipe has been installed and tied into the existing sewer along the creek. So right now, they're up at South Queen.
But of course, you have to build the culvert to come through.
That's correct. The box culvert will be later on, and the box culvert will go over top of the sewer we just built.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
The Queen Street closure, we anticipate to be up through the end of next week. Depending on weather, it may be a little longer, but hopefully by the end of next week, we will have Queen Street back opened. At that point, the sewer work will continue up Columbia Pike, outside of the roadway, and then a little bit into the right lane of the eastbound 244. And eventually, when we'll get to Quinn Street, we will be doing a partial closure of that intersection, at which point we will allow traffic to only exit Quinn Street onto 244. There will be no traffic allowed to enter Quinn Street from 244 when we're doing the work in the intersection of Quinn and Columbia Pike for the sewer. Right now, we're anticipating that's going to happen in early January, and again, that'll be closed for approximately 2 weeks in that configuration. We will have detours up, and I think we have a little diagram with signage and stuff indicating, Quinn Street's closed and where traffic can go to get back to areas along in this neighborhood. The Columbia Pike detour, we're going to be doing that a couple times here in 2014. It's the same detour we've had up a couple times already to demolish the existing bridge and set structural steel so far, the northbound bridge. And those detours will be on the weekends only, like they were before. And we'll be detouring traffic up we have a little diagram of this, up the temporary asphalt with the light at 27. We'll be able to cross over 27, come back down along ramps A and B next to the Sheridan there to get back to 244. And we anticipate 3 weekends in January 2014 to do the demolition of the remaining bridge, and then another weekend or 2 in the fall of 2014 to set the beams for the new southbound bridge. Any questions on it? And as already discussed, we just detouring traffic down 12th Street to South Quinn to get back to 244. So we have signage up, so I think everyone should be used to that. At this point, hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have Queen Street back up.
We may be used to it, but it is a terrible hazard for someone trying to walk across there, especially after dark during this time, because people are coming very close to getting hit because of all the traffic that is now ingressing and egressing out of Quinn Street. I had a friend to tell me it took her 3 traffic lights to cross walking.
To cross to Columbia Pike or
Cross Columbia Pike, yes.
Excuse me. We do have the pedestrian signal working at the signal there, so they should be able to hit the button and cross
No,
Columbia
it's
Pike.
not working right now. I started early in the morning and it's not working.
Okay.
I mean, you can hit the button and it's still red going east-west, but there's still no walking going north-south.
For the, to
Yeah,
cross
for the
244.
crossing, yeah.
Okay, that's something we